Hello, well I'm going to be cutting out my shoe patterns today, and I've got some natural veg tan leather here which I thought I could actually dye. It's fairly thick, it's around 2mm, so fairly heavy duty. I'm going to cut out one shoe first and then sort of assemble it and see how it looks. I'm going to mark with my little scratch rule around the patterns on the leather and then cut it. Now if I just try and sort of draw around this with the scratch awl like that, the chance it will move because it's quite a big bit of pattern. So what I tend to do is put a nice weight on it, and then it's a lot easier. Literally just going around with my scratch awl. When I come to do the other shoe, I can turn these patterns over. I don't want to have two right shoes. I'm sort of thinking this is quite a thick bit of leather, but I think given I'm going to try and keep things really simple with this shoe, so I'm not going to be lining it all, I thought let's see how we get on with it. I'm just putting in a little row of dots to mark the seam overlap, so the quarters actually go over the vamp and they'll be stitched down something like that. Well, there's obviously an overlap here that I've allowed for the stitch down, so I'm just marking where that starts and finishes on the leather. Now, it'll probably be very faint to see this on camera, so I'm not certain it will pick it up, but that is the little stitch line marks that I've put in each side. So to skive it down, I can just use my skiving knife and just take a bit of a margin off there, like a bevel, which is enough to stop that edge sticking up at all. And then it will get glued flat to the other bit of leather prior to sewing. So I want to just try and get it down to a fairly sort of like paper thin edge. I think a couple of passes with this. Once it's sewn and glued, if need be, one could do a little bit more cutting, or one could even do a bit of sanding to get this down. So I'm actually making a 5mm hole for my eyelet. So for the eyelets, I've got like a little anvil. Push that through the leather, have the little anvil there, get the backing washer, which is just like that, and then I can punch it down. If you're in the UK, these ones are from a company called Abbey Tops, and I find they're pretty good. There we are. So I've got those, do the same for the other side. That'll give me my eyelets. I just want to go around some of the edges to sort of like round them over a bit, and my edging tool's a bit blunt, so I find a good way of sharpening it is to use a little bit of wire with a bit of, this is 1500 grit emery paper, and just to go up and down on there to like polish the sharpened edge. You can also sort of to an extent go along for the other side to make sure there's not any burr or anything. That works quite well. I also use one of these little flex cut, they're wooden little block here. Now they come with some yellow sharpening compound, which I find great on carving tools, but for the leather tools I find this green compound is actually, it's a bit more waxy. I think it's a bit coarser, but actually I find it quite good because it sticks to this, I find a bit better. And then particularly for the upper surface, I can just drag it same direction all the time to give it a nice strop. I'm just marking in some stitch lines now, so I'm going to have two lines of stitching to hold the quarters to the vamp. I'm just dyeing this with some tan oil dye, even if I go over it actually while I dye. It's damp, that will get that down a bit. The Wall Dauber puts a heavy dye loading on. One could use a spray, but I want to make these shoes in a way which, if anyone wants to have a go at making some like it, they can just copy what I've done here, at least bits of work. I have got a sort of spray equipment for doing this, and with a spray you can put on an incredibly thin coat, and actually if you say spray a red, you can get it so thin it goes to almost look like a pink. Things like that, you can get quite a different effect by putting a tiny micro coat on, but this will be good for what I'm doing. I've just been roughing up the leather with my scratch awl, just going around where I've got this seam. So what I'm going to do is I'll stick these just temporarily at the front edge here. So the counters I'm going to stick to the vamp just at the front edge. I need to get the shape on the last because this curve is, well, is a curve, compound curve. So I can't glue it together flat. I need to get it on the last to get the right sort of curvature there. So I'm just using a bit of renier aquilim adhesive here. Well, I'm just checking that I've got this sort of roughly matching up, and I have to say it's not easy. I'm trying to get my eyelets to look like they roughly line up, and it's a little bit like manoeuvring jelly. So I'm just putting in some stitches here, really just to hold this in place, and then I can get it all on the last, really just, as I say, to tack it in. So having put those little like holding stitches there, I can now place this on my last, and I think that's broadly right. We'll go for it. So I can now put my glue down and get these lined up while they're on the last, each side, and that will hopefully help me get the shaping a bit better than I might otherwise. So glue's on, I'm just stopping the surfaces from touching each other at the moment while the glue sets a bit. I'm just about to cut out a couple of sole pieces, so I've already got the outline of the bottom of my last because they supplied it. So what I'm going to do is just go around with my dividers here and doing a little like scratch line. So I'm making it a fairly generous margin all round, probably more than I need, but at this stage, because I'm not too certain of the fit, I'm going to make it generous. So what this will enable me to do is to peg the top to this sole unit, and it will help me then with like assembly. I've got myself a nice outline now, and I can go around and cut it. So I'm cutting on this like outer, it's about 1/2 inch, 12mm very roughly off of the actual card outline, so a fair bit bigger. But I've cut out a sole, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to moisten it, so just spray it with some water. And I'm going to then just hammer it down onto the sole of my last. And what I'm hoping the spraying will do is make it take the shape of the last a bit more. So it's particularly around the sort of instep. Obviously I want that to, a bit of toe lift, soak it down there. Oops, get one of these in underneath that. So if you see that now in like side profile, you can see that bit of leather is following the last. I'm just going to put some dye on the toe cap and on the heel counter. But I have a bit of contrast. I can always tone this differently if I need to, so I'm doing some dark brown for this. Well, I'm just doing like a sort of dry run, for want of a better word. So what I've done now is I've placed the toe cap in position just to make sure that it looks roughly right going across here, and then I've pegged around underneath. So that's the sort of sole, and as you can see I've got the pegs very crudely set around there. I'm just trying to get a feel for whether or not I've got the sizing right, and I think I probably have got it, you know, broadly right. What I need to do is form a step here, a proper delineated step, which I can do with various hand tools. I mean, ideally you'd have something that can land this 5-in-1 welt presser for this sort of thing, but I can certainly very happily just mould this with some hand tools, with some slickers. I'm trying to make this whole project simple, so that if you want to have a go, you can. So anyway, I'm quite happy with the way that's all going at the moment. I can remember when I was about 14, 15, maybe a tad older, 16, I had a pair of boots which were like two-tone leather like this, and I can remember being very proud of these rather nice boots. I was treated to them, and I didn't usually have, you know, really nice footwear, and it was lovely getting a nice pair, which I really enjoyed having. So in a way I'm slightly reliving a part of my youth, I suppose. Anyway, see you in the next video, and please subscribe. I'm very near 100,000 subscribers, so it would be quite nice to actually hit that 100,000 if we can. Okay then, thanks so much. Bye bye.